Let me ask you a question here. I don't want to use sexual assault as a lecture topic. You've heard a lot about it. You've discussed it a lot lately. But let me ask you two questions related to it, just to kind of make my point. If your best friend showed up today and walked into your office and sat down, and just sat there, didn't say anything, just sat there and looked at you, you think you could tell if they were having a bad day? Yeah, probably. You know them pretty well. You kind of sense how they're feeling. You read their body language. You're kind of in tune. If your young lieutenant or young airman who was raped last night walks into your office and sits down and doesn't say anything, you think you can tell they're having a bad day? Think so? So why is it that we don't know anything about 84% of the rapes and sexual assaults that happen in our Air Force? Because the fact is that only 16% of the people report, and we never know about the others. So they're sitting in your offices, they're working in your workplaces, you're seeing them every day, and you have no idea. Neither do I. Why is that? And why is it that when somebody is sexually assaulted, which has got to be the worst event of their life, and their whole world is kind of caving in on them, and they're living in a squadron full of people who have sworn to stand beside them in the most horrible conditions, who always talk about being there for their brother and sister, who will do anything to help you, take care of you, get you through the tough times. Why is it that on that most horrible day of their life, they don't trust us enough to come to you, or you, or you, or me for help? 84% of the time. Why is that? I don't know the answer to those questions. But if we can figure out the answer to those questions, we win. We've got to figure it out. I was a wing commander at Kunsan. Some of you may have heard me tell this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because I like it. I was at a 4th of July picnic. I'm with my command chief. We're having a beer, and we look up the sidewalk, and there's a young guy walking toward us. He's wearing combat boots, black knee socks, cut-off gym shorts, no shirt. He's got big nipple rings in. He's got a chain connecting them. That chain is connected up to his black leather dog collar with big silver spikes on it, which matches the one on his wrist. His hair's dyed goth black. It's shaved on one side and then combed over like the Hitler do. The chief and I kind of look at each other and look at him, and we're thinking there's got to be a rule. But we couldn't come up with one quickly. So we just went over and gave him some fashion advice, which I know he really enjoyed. And then we just talked to him for a few minutes. It was a great conversation, actually, because he was a great guy. He was a young staff sergeant, crew chief, in one of the fighter squadrons there at Kunsan. But a great guy. By the way, I found out later, because I flew his airplane a couple times a month, he wasn't just a crew chief, he was an outstanding crew chief. A fantastic crew chief. Really, really professional, capable guy. He worked swing shifts, so when I drive around the flight line at night, I'd see him all the time and talk to him. Fridays, I'd take pizza out there. He was always out there. One of the guys had dinner every Friday, and we'd just talk. Found out he's from Indianapolis. He's a big Colts fan. Real big Indianapolis Pacers fan. He had two brothers, really competitive growing up. They loved sports. He had a Rottweiler that he couldn't bring to Kunsan. He was bummed about that. I felt like I got to know him pretty well. A few months later, I'm in the office one Friday night, knock on the door. I looked up, and here's this staff sergeant, and right next to him is this young tech sergeant who's his supervisor. The guy's been on the base for 4 days, his new supervisor on the flight line. And behind him is the squadron commander and the first sergeant and the chief, and they're not looking happy to be there at all. But this tech sergeant drags this guy into my office, and he says, "Boss, you got to fix this." That's his opening line. Now, I've got scenarios now going through my brain, oh God, he wore the dog collar to work. He took off his shirt and the nipple rings were in, or I don't know what the heck was happening out there, but I was really nervous about this. And then the young tech sergeant explained to me that this guy had a daughter. And he told me about what was going on with a little girl. Turns out this guy had left Hill Air Force Base to come to Kunsan. He had a follow-on assignment to Spangdahlem, Germany. When he left Hill, he had just completed a really ugly divorce. His wife had started using drugs a couple years before. She kind of used them, got off them, used them, because he kept telling her, I can't be around this. And so she'd try and get off, but couldn't. And finally he said, I can't be around this, I need a divorce. So they went through an ugly divorce. They then went through an uglier custody battle for their 4-year-old daughter. He didn't want to tell anybody on the legal side of the house about his wife's drug problem. So she got custody of their daughter. He came to Kunsan. She then got arrested, charged, and convicted of felony drug sales. She's going to jail. The daughter is now a ward of the court. Custody hearings are ongoing in Utah. The judge has decided that if you're going to compete for custody, you have to live close enough that I can see this little girl every 6 to 8 weeks because I'm worried about her. Spangdalem's too far away to compete for custody. So this guy's been trying to change his assignment on his own through the personnel system from Kunsan as a young staff sergeant. You can imagine the luck he was having. Very proud guy, didn't want to ask for help. So we made some phone calls, eventually got hold of the judge, talked to him. He said Arizona's close enough. So I called the chief of assignments at AFPC and said, we need this to change. I need to get this guy to Luke Air Force Base. He said, okay. He heard the whole story. He said, okay, great. When's he got to be there? This is Friday night in Korea. And I'm looking at my watch going, Sunday? So he said, great, put him on an airplane. Orders will meet him in Arizona. So the chief and I gave him a little fashion advice about what you wear to a custody hearing. And we kicked him out the door, hoping he made the custody hearing in Utah on Monday morning, because the judge had told me if he's not in my courtroom Monday, it's the final hearing. I will not consider him in this discussion. Didn't hear anything for a few months. A couple months later, I'm in the office. I open up an envelope and a picture falls out. And it's a picture of a little girl sitting on top of a llama with this staff sergeant standing next to the llama. And the note just says, just wanted to say thank you. This is Lori's 5th birthday party near Flagstaff, Arizona. I have full custody of my daughter. It's a pretty cool picture. Pretty cool story, isn't it? With a really important question that comes with it. Why didn't I know about that little girl? I knew about the Indianapolis Colts. I knew about the Rottweiler. I knew about his brothers. Why didn't I know he had a daughter? Not a trick question. Any guesses? I never asked him. I don't know why I didn't. I certainly had the opportunity to. By the way, I ask everybody about their family. But I didn't ask him. I don't know why. Some failing on my part. Maybe the dog collar? How could a guy with a dog collar have a little girl? You're funny, but not. Something kept me from asking that question. I almost cost that little girl her father. I almost cost her family. By the way, my command chief didn't ask him either. Neither did the group commander or the group chief. Neither did the squadron commander, the squadron chief, the first sergeant, or the 3 previous supervisors he'd had in that squadron. None of us were leading that airman. Luckily, that young tech sergeant supervisor, 4 days on the job, knew all about it and did something about it. Every airman has a story. Every one of you has a story. The stories are really remarkable. They're unique. Some are sad, some are uplifting, some are inspirational, some are enthusiastic, some put you to sleep. But every airman has one. And the simple fact is, if you don't know the story, you can't lead the airmen. I need you to learn the stories. If you learn the stories, if we know more about each other, we'll take better care of each other. We'll know if somebody's having a bad day when they sit down in our office. If we take better care of each other, all these other things start to fade away. And amazingly enough, our mission performance gets better because pride grows. That's the way it works with real people in the real world. That's the Air Force I want to be part of. Some of you already have it in your units or in your groups. Expand it. Take it with you wherever you go. I need your help. We have airmen who don't feel respected. They don't feel valued, and therefore they don't contribute as well as they could. And we can fix that like that. We just got to decide we're going to do it. Help me out. Let me let you guys get back to your life, but before I do, let me just one more time say thank you. Thanks for hosting Betty and I and Athena and the whole team that I brought with me. Thanks for all you had to put all that together. Thanks for the team that put this hangar together, the Thunderdome. It's pretty cool. Thanks for every one of you and what you do and how proud you make me every day when I come to work. And finally, where'd my buddy go over here? My new weapons buddy. Thanks to Crosby, because he reminds me of something. I'm getting old, but I've been doing this a long time. And it's still just a kick in the pants. And every now and then people ask me why I love it so much. And I think about somebody like Crosby. Why wouldn't I want to keep doing this? But you know what's important that you got to think about Crosby, besides what I already told you never to forget? Is the thing I love most about this business. And that's that even though I met you about 1 hour ago, I'd die for you. And I am just naive enough to believe that when it mattered, you'd do the same for me. That's what wearing this uniform's all about, bud. That's what makes this a profession and not a job. That's what you stand for. That's why we need to take care of each other. That's why I'm a pretty proud guy. Thanks for your time today, everybody. Take care of yourself. Take care of our Air Force.